He writes to her obsessively, you know, like all the time. He writes to her about how he's thinking about her all the time, and then he hopes she's thinking about him. And oh, I know it's been 2 hours since I wrote to you last, but now I'm going to write to you again. He can't stop it. He is obsessed.
Few men in history have commanded as much power and controversy as Napoleon Bonaparte. Known for his military genius, he reshaped Europe with his conquests. But his battlefield victories weren't the only thing that made him infamous. Beyond the war maps and political maneuvers, Napoleon's personal life was just as dramatic. His love affairs, scandals, and wild escapades added another layer to his legend.
This vermin has held the world hostage with his egotism and his lack of simple good manners.
He lost his virginity in a Parisian brothel and later learned the art of love from his first wife, Josephine. Though he publicly claimed to have only 7 lovers, the real number was likely far higher, at least 21. Among them was a famous French actress who was also involved with his greatest enemy, the Duke of Wellington. To his dismay, she admitted Wellington was the better lover. Napoleon's tangled love life led to children with multiple women, including a Polish mistress and an Austrian noblewoman, both of whom gave birth just a day apart. Yet, despite his many romances, he always claimed Josephine was his true love. While he conquered nations with an iron fist, his relationships revealed a man driven by passion, power, and an insatiable desire to leave his mark on history.
Once you see it, you will always want it.
Napoleon's first love, Caroline Columbia. Back in 1786, a young Napoleon Bonaparte had just graduated from military school and was stationed in the town of Valence. It was there that he met Caroline Columbia, a woman 8 years older than him. They never had a physical relationship, but that didn't matter. Napoleon was completely smitten. Even decades later, after he had conquered nations and become one of the most powerful men in the world, he never forgot Caroline. When she reached out to him years later asking for a favor, he didn't just help, he showered her and her family with gifts. Looking back on their time together, Napoleon described their love as completely innocent. One of his fondest memories, a quiet summer morning where their biggest joy was simply eating cherries together at sunrise. For a man whose life was filled with war, ambition, and political intrigue, Caroline was a rare reminder of something pure. While history remembers Napoleon as a conqueror, he too had moments of quiet, youthful love. Napoleon's first experience of sex. By 1795, Napoleon Bonaparte was rising through the ranks. But there was one area where he lacked experience: romance. Determined to change that, he visited a Parisian brothel, where his first attempt at intimacy didn't go quite as planned. It reportedly took 4 different encounters before he was finally successful. Some say he sought out this experience not just for pleasure, but as research for a love novel he was writing, Clisson and Eugénie. At the time, Napoleon was engaged to Désirée Clary, a woman who would later become the Queen of Sweden. Her sister Julie had already married Napoleon's older brother, Joseph Bonaparte, making the Bonapartes deeply connected to the Clary family. However, Désirée's feelings for Napoleon were lukewarm at best, and her family wasn't thrilled about another Bonaparte entering their circle. Things took a turn when Napoleon met Joséphine de Beauharnais, a sophisticated widow who completely captivated him. Their passionate romance led him to break off his engagement with Désirée. While Désirée moved on and married Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, a French general under Napoleon, fate had other plans. Bernadotte later became the King of Sweden and, ironically, one of Napoleon's greatest rivals. Caught between these two powerful men, Désirée found herself in a unique position, serving as an informal messenger between her husband and former fiancé. Though Napoleon's personal life was filled with love, heartbreak, and rivalry, his early romantic experiences shaped the complex relationships that would follow him for the rest of his life. Napoleon's true love, his first wife, Joséphine de Beauharnais. When it came to love, no woman held Napoleon's heart quite like Joséphine de Beauharnais. From the moment they met at a lavish ball in 1795, hosted by Paul Barras, who was, interestingly, Joséphine's lover at the time, Napoleon was completely captivated. Joséphine had an irresistible charm, an exotic beauty, and a graceful presence that made her stand out in any crowd. But it wasn't just her looks that enchanted men. She had a reputation for being incredibly skilled in the art of seduction. Her bedroom, famously decorated with an array of mirrors, was designed to create an illusion of endless passion. It was even rumored that she had a signature move in bed, a mysterious dance known as the zigzags, though no one can say for sure what that actually entailed. What is certain, however, is that Josephine played a crucial role in shaping Napoleon's confidence when it came to intimacy. He was so enthralled by her that he once wrote, "I am coming home, don't wash." Despite her family's disapproval, Napoleon was head over heels, and in 1796 they were married. But even on their wedding night, there was competition for Josephine's affection, her fiercely loyal dog. The small creature refused to give up its place in bed, even going so far as to bite Napoleon on the leg when he tried to get close to his new wife. Just 2 days after their wedding, duty called, and Napoleon left for his military campaign in Italy. He was madly in love, pouring his heart into passionate letters to Josephine. His words were filled with longing and deep desire. "How happy I would be if I could assist you at your undressing." The little firm white breast, the adorable face, the hair tied up in a scarf à la Creole. But while Napoleon was consumed by love, Josephine was enjoying life in Paris. Without him. Almost immediately after his departure, she found comfort in the arms of a young, handsome officer named Hippolyte Charles. While Napoleon wrote letter after letter, desperate for a response, Josephine barely replied. And when she did, her words lacked the warmth of his. In fact, she reportedly read his love letters aloud to her friends, laughing at his infatuation. Napoleon, blind to her betrayals, continued to worship her from afar. His letters grew more intimate, more desperate. "Oh, you know that I will never forget the little visits. You know the little black forest. I kiss it 1,000 times and wait impatiently for the moment I will be in it." He even kissed her portrait daily, longing for the woman who barely acknowledged his devotion. Ironically, when Josephine finally traveled to Italy to visit him, she didn't come alone. She brought Hippolyte with her. Yet Napoleon, so deeply in love, failed to see the truth. And when she returned to Paris, she wasted no time resuming her affair. Despite all of Napoleon's achievements on the battlefield, in matters of the heart, he was just another man, hopelessly in love with a woman who never truly loved him back. Napoleon's revenge through sex. By the time Napoleon was deep into his Egyptian campaign, 1798-1801, rumors of Josephine's infidelity had reached him once again. This time the news came from his own brother, and unlike before, Napoleon didn't dismiss it. He was furious. In a fit of rage, he wrote to her, "I don't love you, not at all. On the contrary, I detest you. You're a naughty, gawky, foolish s**t." Unfortunately for him, the British intercepted the letter and wasted no time publishing it, turning his private heartbreak into a public scandal. Feeling humiliated and betrayed, Napoleon sought his own form of revenge. He began a sexual affair with Pauline Four, the wife of one of his lieutenants. In Egypt, she was known as Cleopatra, a nickname given to her by none other than Napoleon himself. Despite everything, he eventually forgave Josephine. Though he had considered divorce, his fear of abandonment held him back. Josephine, realizing the risk, stopped her affairs and worked hard to win him back. But the dynamic had shifted. Napoleon was no longer the lovesick man she had once controlled. He had changed. "My mistresses do not engage my feelings. Power is my mistress," he declared. And from then on, power was all that truly mattered to him. Napoleon's divorce and lasting love for Josephine. Although they shared a deep love, Napoleon and Josephine divorced in 1810. However, their bond remained strong. Even after the split, Napoleon ensured Josephine was well taken care of, gifting her a lavish residence and a generous yearly income. The two continued to have a positive relationship, and it's likely they still had lingering feelings for each other. Josephine once said, "The only thing that ever came between us was my debts, certainly not his manhood." After their divorce in 1814, Napoleon was exiled to the island of Elba, off the coast of France. Tragically, that same year, Josephine passed away. When Napoleon heard the news, he was so devastated that he locked himself in his room for 2 days, refusing to eat or drink. Napoleon's own death came in 1821 while in exile on the island of St. Helena, located in the South Atlantic. Even in his final moments, Josephine was in his thoughts. His last words were reportedly, "France, l'armée, tête d'armée, Josephine." The woman he had loved deeply was never far from his heart. Although in 1805, Napoleon had an unexpected meeting with 18-year-old Eleanor de la Plaine. At the time, she was working as a servant for his sister Caroline, and also happened to be Caroline's husband's mistress. There was a rumor going around that Napoleon couldn't have children, mainly because his marriage to Josephine hadn't produced any heirs, despite Josephine already having 2 kids from a previous relationship. To test the rumor, Napoleon had an affair with Eleanor in 1806. Less than a year later, Eleanor gave birth to a son, Leon, on December 13, 1806, putting the fertility rumors to rest. Napoleon's notorious love affairs all over Europe. Napoleon's love life is often discussed in history, and while he claimed to have had only 7 mistresses, historians believe there were at least 21. Some of the most beautiful and influential women in Europe were involved with him. 2 of the most notable were Marie Walewska and Emily Kraus. Marie Walewska, a stunning Polish countess, caught Napoleon's eye in 1807 when they met near Warsaw. She had been eagerly waiting to see him, and when they finally crossed paths, Napoleon was immediately taken with her. He famously told her, "I have only seen you, I have only admired you, I desire only you." Their sexual affair was kept secret for a while, as Marie wanted to protect her reputation. She would visit Napoleon at night and leave before dawn, but those in high society knew about their relationship. Marie claimed that her affair with Napoleon was about helping Poland, but it was clear that she also fell for him. Napoleon's friends noticed how passionate he was about her. In 1810, they had a son, Alexandre Joseph, who Napoleon acknowledged as his own, though Marie's husband accepted him too. Then there's Emily Kraus, a 20-year-old beauty from Austria. She quickly became one of Napoleon's sexual partners after they met in 1805. Emily, who was the adopted daughter of an Austrian commander, was discreetly involved with Napoleon under the code name Felix. She accompanied him on military missions, often disguised as a boy to keep their sexual relationship a secret. She even followed him to Paris, but wasn't allowed to stay at court. In May 1810, Emily gave birth to Napoleon's son, Eugene. Just the day after, Marie Walewska had her second child, Alexandre Joseph, named after Napoleon. Both women were significant figures in Napoleon's life. While he was often involved in sexual relationships with powerful women, it's clear that he had deep feelings for Marie and Emily, even though political and personal circumstances complicated their connections. In 1815, Napoleon found himself exiled on the remote island of St. Helena. But he wasn't alone. Albine de Montholon, a woman infamous for having numerous lovers, was part of his inner circle. Though she was married to her 3rd husband, Charles Dillon, Albine didn't shy away from having affairs, including with Napoleon himself. She even had 2 daughters with him, named Helen and Josephine. But when Napoleon found out Albine was seeing another man, he wasn't happy. In fact, he ordered her to leave the island. It's a fascinating look at Napoleon's relationships during his years in exile. Napoleon and Marie-Louise, a marriage of power, politics, and love. Napoleon's life took a major turn in 1810 when his marriage to Josephine came to an end. She was no longer able to have children, and that was something Napoleon desperately wanted. In search of an heir, he married Marie-Louise, a young Austrian princess just 19 years old at the time. Interestingly, Napoleon wasn't present for his own wedding. At first, Marie-Louise had mixed feelings about Napoleon, largely due to the fact that her great-aunt, Marie Antoinette, had been executed by guillotine in France in 1793. Plus, Napoleon had fought against Austria in numerous wars, fueling her resentment. She even went so far as to call him an antichrist, claiming that just seeing him would be torture. But Napoleon had a way of breaking down her walls, and soon enough she found herself falling in love with him. Marie-Louise later admitted that there was something about Napoleon, his eagerness, his charm, that made it impossible to resist. Although she was initially shy and submissive at home, Marie-Louise eventually grew to respect Napoleon, especially after she gave him an heir. Their son, Napoleon II, was born after a difficult and dangerous childbirth, and in the process, Napoleon promised Marie-Louise that he would never ask her to go through another pregnancy. By 1814, after Napoleon's exile to Elba, Marie-Louise and their son returned to Vienna. However, her visits to Napoleon were forbidden by her father, leaving them separated during his final years. Napoleon's sexual entanglements with opera and theatre stars. Napoleon's fame in the 19th century opened many doors for him, and he didn't shy away from enjoying the company of famous people. His high status gave him access to a range of prominent figures, including opera and theatre stars. These performers were often invited into his inner circle and, unsurprisingly, his bedroom as well. Napoleon's power and allure made him a magnet for the rich and famous, and it's well known that many of these stars found their way into his life, adding another layer to his complex personal history. This connection with the art scene brought notable figures into Napoleon's personal life, including opera stars like Caroline Branchou and Giuseppina Grassini. Caroline Branchou, a talented French soprano, was a significant figure at the Paris Opera from 1778 until 1850. In 1802, she became romantically involved with Napoleon. As a result, Napoleon helped boost her career, even arranging a generous salary of 3,000 francs, equivalent to about $14,000 today. Another opera star in Napoleon's life was Giuseppina Grassini, an Italian contralto known for her powerful voice. Born in 1773, Giuseppina met Napoleon in Milan in 1800, and they quickly became romantically involved. The pair traveled together to Paris, where she performed in several operas. Both women played prominent roles in Napoleon's life, and he made sure their careers flourished during their relationships. Like Caroline and Giuseppina, Marguerite Georges and Josephine Duchesnois were also part of Napoleon's romantic entanglements. Marguerite Georges and Josephine Duchesnois were two talented French actresses who found themselves romantically involved with Napoleon during the early 1800s. These women were among the most celebrated actresses of their time, each leaving their mark both on and off the stage. Marguerite Georges' love life was particularly eventful. Before becoming Napoleon's lover, she was involved with his brother, Lucien. After her affair with Napoleon in the early 1800s, she found herself entangled with none other than Duke Wellington, Napoleon's most formidable opponent. This made Marguerite one of the rare women to have been romantically linked to both Napoleon and Wellington, two of history's greatest rivals. In a bold and revealing comparison, Marguerite, when asked about the two men, didn't shy away from offering her thoughts on their intimate encounters. She famously declared that Duke Wellington was far superior to Napoleon in bed, though it's unclear if Giuseppina Grassini, who had also shared romantic moments with both men, would agree with her. Regardless, Marguerite's fiery relationships with these powerful men of history certainly painted a picture of her bold and uninhibited nature, which matched her on-stage persona. And that's a wrap on the wild, messy, and fascinating life of Napoleon Bonaparte. His personal life was just as legendary as his conquests, filled with love, heartbreak, and scandal. From passionate affairs with powerful women to his deep, enduring love for Josephine, it's clear that behind the general's iron will, there was a man consumed by emotion. Even in his final days, Napoleon's thoughts never strayed far from the people he loved. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden side of Napoleon's life, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more intriguing stories, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Got thoughts on Napoleon's love life or other historical figures you want us to dive into? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.